So you does have to start, in a sense, with giving the physical personality, in a sense, let's say, you have to give it the first win in the negotiation. You follow me?
Okay.
By honoring the belief systems it has created, by validating them and recognizing that from the physical mind's point of view, they are valid. It's only trying to protect you after all. It's protecting itself, but it's protecting you.
Yes.
Because it thinks itself is you.
Yes.
So the idea is that what it's doing, no matter how detrimental it may seem, no matter from what negative place it may seem to come, it's doing it out of love. Making the statement in your negotiation, your opening statement in your negotiation, that you recognize that it's doing what it's doing out of love is the way to begin the negotiation. And then what you're returning with is the idea that what you are also proposing is out of love, because you want the ego to survive and you want it to experience joy in doing its job effortlessly. And therefore, what you're going to propose is a sensibly and reasonably paced unfolding of a change in a negotiation that honors its side, its view, while at the same time also allowing you to prove to it that the changes you are proposing will serve it as well. So it's a win-win situation. But you must start any such negotiation by letting it, in a sense, win its first point, because the ego is all about winning.
Yes.
And when you can teach the ego then that you're interested in a win-win, it will start to relent and grant you some leeway. Then you can work with whatever it is it gives you, and even if you are given a seed, you can expand that and keep expanding that in your future negotiations as you prove, bit by bit, that the old beliefs are no longer necessary for the ego to continue to win. At a certain point, you will cross a threshold in those negotiations where the ego will actually be eager to grant you more and more and more leeway, because it will actually start to feel the burden lighten up on itself. It will actually start to feel more like its true self. It will actually start to stretch out and say, you know, this isn't half bad. Well, in fact, then maybe it is just half bad. But it is working its way to being all good. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
Does that help?
Yes, it helps, and I think it may answer the second part, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Oh, all right.
So then when I get the ego to be quiet for a while, then I spend the second part asking questions of my higher mind and then waiting for an answer and writing it down.
You can. Again, remember, it is important during this point to actually use this quiet time to begin a dialogue with your higher mind in whatever way will allow the ego to feel that you're not tricking it.
Give me an example. Do it.
Well, again,
do the dialogue.
You have to express the idea that you're going to... Are you familiar with the idea? Again, this comes back to the idea of what you call business language. Are you familiar with the idea of full disclosure?
Yes.
Well, that's what you're doing with the ego.
Okay.
You're saying, all right, the first win goes to you. And now, if you will allow me, I'm going to talk a little bit with the higher mind. Is that all right? Of course, the ego will think that you are something else talking to the higher mind, when in fact the higher mind is actually saying that.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes.
All right, because at first the ego won't recognize you as the higher mind. But when you get the ego to be quiet, you actually start talking to it as the higher mind. But for a while you may have to pretend that you're not. You may have to pretend to seem to be a neutral party. Maybe you can even pretend you're the negotiator in between the physical mind and the higher mind. The point here is to use your imagination to make that negotiation work in whatever way it seems to work best. But what is important is full disclosure, so the ego doesn't feel it's being tricked. And when the ego doesn't feel it's being tricked, the ego will have no reason to trick and sabotage you. So full disclosure is important. All the lessons of what you call win-win business negotiation are applicable to negotiating with the ego structure.
I love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bashar, I am absolutely excited and delighted to be here with you.
Oh, all right.
Thank you so much.
And good day.
Good day to you. Good day. I have been asking my ego to allow me to exponentially move forward away from what I recognize as limiting belief systems.
And how has it responded?
Well, it's you know, it's going pretty well. I have
All
big
right.
dreams, but they feel surrounded by limitations. What happens is I get very close
Yes.
to the people and experiences that could, you know, that might be the ushering me in towards
Yes.
them.
Yes.
And then something recoils and I end
Yes.
up sort of in a cross between dire circumstances and
Yes.
debt and this possibility of amazing
Yes.
things.
That's
So,
because you have set up the negotiation to allow the ego to toy with you.
yeah. It's a mean ego that I've got.
All right.
I'm working
well,
on it.
Again, the idea is to go back to the 0 point. Renegotiate the deal.
Okay.
Don't be so insistent on having a particular kind of expansion. Even the idea of an exponentially expansive, joyful life may not even be involved in the first negotiation. You may not want to enter that arena in the first negotiation. You may just want to start with just a little bit.